Thank you, John, for this very nice introduction. He introduced me as a scientist, told you about the work I've been doing and also about some Dutch habits. 11 minutes presentation. When he invited me by mail to come over to your conference, I really answered him the same day that I would be honored to come over to talk to you here. And I was fascinated by the idea that I could talk for as long as I needed. That's what he actually said in the email. So when you ask someone with a very outspoken research focus to discuss an audience, with an audience that is very experienced in consumption issues, the topics that he likes most, talking about sustainable consumption, wow, that's an opportunity, which of course I didn't have to think twice about. So what I will do is to present you the topic of consumption, as he said, from an environmental point of view primarily. That's what I have to offer to you, in addition to, of course, the work like Frank Trentman, Alan Ward. These are the real big names in the sociology of consumption. You have all had them in your the history of these conferences here, and I'm proud to be now included in number 6. So I will, let's say, also more or less assume a certain level of background knowledge. John told me that you are pretty experienced in the sociology and anthropology of consumption. So sometimes I use very little words to indicate a topic. If you need more information or you really want to raise an urgent topic, then although John said I have to finish my talk before we start discussing, you can always interrupt and ask for clarification. So I assume a high level of kind of knowledge, except for this kind of ecological part. We have some specialists in the room on environmental issues, but I assume that most of you are not very familiar with the environmental studies, and especially with ecological modernization theory, as John introduced. That's the kind of stuff I've been working on for the past 20 years, together with Arthur Moll and my colleagues in the Environmental Policy Group. So these are the topics that I want to deal with. Most of my time will go to topic 3 and 4, which is about the content of practice theory and how you can use practice theory for analyzing sustainable consumption in everyday life. That's the main topic that I want to take most of the time for, and then just an introduction to situate a little bit this topic in the field of sustainable consumption and the sociology of consumption in particular. Is this okay for you in terms of the speed of talking? It's okay, good. So we start with the sociology of consumption, and of course the obvious starting point here is the work of Pierre Bourdieu. I think there is no sociologist that we share more in this room than Bourdieu. That would be my guess, at least. And he has been very influential in the sociology of consumption by all these kind of key concepts that he introduced, like habitus, practice, field, and also his arguments for a kind of reflexive sociology in general. So Bourdieu is the obvious starting point from the sociology of consumption point of view. And we teach our students about what he brought as the main driver of consumption in general, and it is the process of distinction. So you have socio-economic, or nowadays we say lifestyle groups, competing with each other for distinction, for status. And that's one of the kind of driving forces behind our consumption behaviors. At least that's what Pierre Bourdieu argued. And I would say also Mary Douglas, anthropologist, she is, I think, on a similar line. What I want to point out for my talk is that this sociology of consumption is very much a sociology. It's very kind of social in its orientation. So it's about people relating to other people, people showing off to other people their particular taste for objects. They don't go very deep into the objects themselves. The objects are just there for taste, the taste of the people. And the people relate via the objects to other people. It's a saying of Mary Douglas, consumption, so she said, forget about goods. Goods are the mediating materials for relating to other people. That's the primary function of goods. Well, when you have that as a starting point for thinking about sustainable consumption, I think there are two things that you should notice. So first, this is what Ben Fine called a horizontal approach to sustainable consumption, because you can have this play of distinction happening in a similar way in many different fields of consumption. So what people do on food or on sports or on art, it's more or less driven by the same kind of need for showing off your status, your distinction. So it's a horizontal approach. I'll come back to that later. And it is a thoroughly social approach. So environmental issues do not appear in this kind of sustainable, or this kind of sociology of consumption. Because objects are there just for taste, and they are not kind of presented as a way of mediating, a mediating material for relating to nature. It's just for relating to other people. And that's one of the points of criticism you can have on the sociology of consumption, that for a long time they forgot to include the environment and nature element in it. So not so for the environmental sciences, environmental social sciences that are dealing with consumption, because they more or less make this relationship with nature to the key issue of their consumption research and theories. And as John already mentioned, there are a few theories around, and one of them is ecological modernization theory that is very much focusing on the environmental footprint of consumption. So it's about the environmental impacts that have to be diagnosed, that have to be assessed for where do they come from, can they be reduced? And this is the kind of questions that are central place in ecological modernization theory. When they think about offering kind of the way forward, solutions, most of the time they go to technology. They want to improve objects, technologies, to bring that to consumers, and by investing in sustainable technologies, you can go greening not just production systems, but also systems of consumptions, which are, by the way, thought to be very much related to systems of production. So basically what you can see here, that they work with technological innovation in production and consumption chains and networks to improve consumption from a sustainable development point of view. That means reducing the footprint, improving the life cycle analysis of products and systems and technologies.